And what we were talking about was sound effects. No, we weren't, but on break we were.
Prior to the break.
Yeah. So we read in the chat room that there's an opportunity for our growth of MWR, which is awesome, which is a good sign for helping me out of my hopelessness stage that I was in. So when you're in certain stages, it's important to look at the good that's coming your way, but we have a tendency to forget that.
Right.
So now, she went into depression. Like I said, there's stages of depression, but we got to disrupt that by addressing it and then using some healing tools. Then she went into hopelessness and despair, and this was really quick, we went through, and can't get out of and then wallow. Literally, she lives in this foundation, she lives in the wallow. And wallow is not whining and crying and moaning. Her wallow is funny. Her wallow is exciting and static electricity and bitchiness and whatever you call it. I mean, but it's hilarious to some degree, but it's still a form of wallow where on a physical level it still depletes you from having physical nourishment and keeping the acidic and alkaline level balanced.
Well, it's interesting. Okay, so we have talked about, and I know it's been on this show as well as our other show on Blog Talk, about thriving in the desert. So,
yes,
as a metaphor, so the wallow has become my landscape, has become my desert, because this has been my foundation. So that's been my environment. I'm not literally living in the desert.
Nope.
But metaphorically speaking, that's where I am because of the wallow, and I have found ways to thrive in it. Because
that's a stage of certainty.
Because the rainforest must have been taken, so then I was left with the desert. Fine, I will set up shop. I will make it the best damn desert you have ever seen.
But it's an acceptance stage, it's that certainty stage, it's that survival stage, and this becomes our comfort zone. And that's the only way we know how to have and to get out of that process. And that's what she's been healing. And they're not bad. Okay? We're not saying they're evil. We're not saying they're wrong. We're saying
it's how I made sense of my world.
Yes, and that is correct for her. But what's happening is that she wants her soul to grow, and she wants to physically to become happier and healthier. In order to do that, you have to see what's depleting you. And it is certain behaviors and belief systems and decisions and compromising and all these things that need to be addressed and healed to the point of resolve to evolve. Again, you have to get out of that negative mind stage that it's right or wrong, good or bad. We're looking for the third option, and we're going to present that third option. And now let's jump from that to how interesting this is, that when it comes to, we're trying to retain or reclaim what is lost. We think something is lost, and therefore we have to get it back. Now, there's different stages of how one does it. What we're going to present is just particular one perception or one way of doing it. It was interesting to watch that I have many friends that have learned that something was lost and then they fought to get it back, and now they already have it. Those are usually the three things that I like to point out to people. You lost it, you fought for it, you already have it. Lost it was that she wasn't in charge, that nobody wanted her. She can't do it right. I'm the one to blame. What did she lose? And it's all about energy. All these things will always point out back to the power play of energy. And when you start to look at when people are in sync, the energy is completely balanced. And when the energy becomes out of sync, who has the position that's higher? Instead of standing side by side and seeing each other as equal, which is where usually we want to be in an agreed upon state, but yet be indifferent, be different, be somewhere else. But instead, she felt the power play. If her mother was going through a particular thing, pulled her energy back, she's going to be looking for it. But if her mother then turns around and talks to her and then comes from an angle from that it could be that she's more authority, a more opinionated, more, because she's
I'm-
living through
I'm-
her pain.
Right, I'm the mom, and you will listen to what I have to say, young lady.
But she also could be living through the pain, and if the pain is very strong, it's going to have a certain authority, even if she has no authority in her life. The pain will have the authority. The belief will have the authority. And when you're receiving that energy and you're not in sync, it will feel very dominating and domineering to the point that you will feel the pain before they open their mouth. Because again, you have 10,000 gestures just in a snap of a finger about what's going on interacting-wise. So she felt like she lost her energy, her stance of where she is. And she talks about this with her family members, where she felt like she couldn't exist, she couldn't have air, she couldn't do that. And everybody else had this authority. And when a person has insecurity and they're in great pain, they will have great anger that can get them out of it or stabilize where they are because they don't know how to process it. That will feel very domineering to somebody that comes from a very loving space. Okay? So it gets to the point, it's nothing's got processed. If you go back, the final thread is that they couldn't process. So this is how they've processed. But how did it affect relationships? It was always off. Something was out of sync. So then how do you do it? In order for you to function, you now have to get to be fighting, to be more domineering, because only the weak will what? Die. Only the strong will survive.
Right, and there's no way that I could be weak in my family, even
Oh,
if
it wasn't allowed.
even if even if I didn't want to participate. That my big stance is, you're not teaching me how to play bridge. I will not learn how to play that card game. Sam, I do not like it. In a house with a mouse, I don't want to play that game because that's a microcosm. That's how they do cutthroat, is by playing this game, and I don't want to participate in that. So guess what? I'm rebelling against it. Then I'm not seen as weak because I'm actually fighting against something.
And like I said, there was a lot of things that she had gone through to prove, evidence-wise, experience-wise, emotional, mental evidence that said she didn't have a power. She grew up in a family where everybody thought they were smarter than everybody else.
Right, I had to get a master's degree just to sit at the dinner table, practically.
But really, again, it was all about this authority of energy. I'm not in charge. And then she learned to fight for it. Teenage years. Now you are thrown further into the wolves, from house to further into the wolves, because now they see you. The animals, the prey, see you. Because when you're in your household, they weren't really seeing you as much because you were protected behind your mother or father. But now you are more developing into that rational, the reasoning, opening it up to more abstract and all this other stuff, and learning to co-create within that brain of ours, and how you're supposed to function. So now she's got everybody's attitudes, everybody's insecurities, are trying to over-dominate other people's insecurities, and more stuff that's happening, that the only way she could survive was, when part of her genetics is to protest and to fight and to, I have a right. So she had to develop a certain behavior and attitude to fit into her own crowd, so that the thing that she was fearful of was fearful of her.
Which is interesting because my mom will tell you that I was a very fearful, shy, and scared child.
But that's what she saw as a younger part.
Right.
You know, and that still makes up your foundation, which needs to be resolved. So now she already has. Now let's explain this. There's a lot of people that I love that do this. This is part of a generation. This is part of the group consciousness. Again, it's not wrong. It is a way of living. It's a perception. When you take and look at my mother-in-law, she says, she goes, I just need a break. When can I do what I want to do? So it's the language. It's not pointing fingers. It's looking at the language. She just happened to be a great teacher for me. And I'm watching her, how she could develop her whole day and do what she wants, but, you know, maybe she felt like she couldn't because of her husband or whatever. But when she had to do certain things, and it would take a total of 3 hours to do, that would be her main focus, how it destroyed the rest of the hours of the day where she could not do what she wanted to do. Well, she gets her break, and she uses all the time she can, you know, I'm going to read books, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Always the fear of pending, something's going to take away that break. So do you really get to take the break? No, because it's like a perfectionist, always looking for the flaw. You never notice the beautiful perfection long enough to claim it that you already have it. So Jen felt like she couldn't have it. I said, you have more authority than you can ever imagine. You get to dictate pretty much about how MWR goes. You get to dictate about how our evenings go, because we don't know your schedule. You know, you don't really communicate with us so much, so we have to guess. You know, and my daughter was waiting to take a shower, but and it was funny because my daughter has her own issues, but all of a sudden, she went to go in the one bathroom, you were in there. Oh, she'll wait. She went to go in the other bathroom to get her toothbrush, and you had taken and occupied that. She goes, oh my God, I cannot figure out her schedule. She doesn't have one, dear. That's what her schedule. Yeah, but how am I supposed to function in this house? I don't know. You'll just have to figure out how to do it differently. Or we posted on the wall, this is random time. That could be any time for Jen. I don't know.
Right.
But
which is so funny because I feel like I have to follow whatever her schedule is.
And she's the one that's sitting in the back waiting patiently. She wanted to go to bed 4 hours ago, but she didn't know when you had to get in there and what your schedule was. Did you have to run to Lansing? Did you have to do this? Did you have to do that? So lack of communication can cause a whole havoc, especially in a household. So again, we're not blaming here. It's just this is what it falls to, is that everybody has their issues, and then we all volunteer soulfully. Oh, I'll show you your shit today. And, you know,
and you're welcome.
And there's sometimes I want to refuse showing my, I don't want to be the shithead today. I don't want to do that. Are you serious? Oh, God. I have to be shown. And it's funny to watch my husband, his lens will show up. Oh, my wife's being ornery. And I'm like, I'm sitting there smiling, and all you can see is that I'm ornery. And, oh, my God. I'm like, oh, I could dance naked. He'd still only see one thing. And that's just an example because he did a lot of healing on that. But, there are just some things that happen. And if we need to heal some of these lenses. So Jen already has the power. She knows she doesn't have to fight for it here. Well, maybe she doesn't know that. But the point is that if you don't understand...
That's completely new to me.
Because you can't see you already have it. If you stand back, you have it all over the place. But we were talking a little bit further. Why do you have to create such hell and live it in order to have what you thought you lost? And this is where we came up with. Again, this is a speculation. You grew up with it. How you were to achieve greatness is that you had to have a fundamental aspect of a foundation in place that says, I'm sorry to give you all these words, but they're changing their thoughts here. My life is hell. And I need that to fuel me to fight in order to have my freedom and already to say I'm in charge. So she can't just say I'm in charge, because her strategy would be completely thrown off. The strategy has to begin with that first domino that's tapped to knock over the rest. We know that we can help you heal those strategy patterns so that you don't have to knock down that first domino. In this household, sometimes I will not play. Go knock that domino down somewhere else. Not here.
Yeah, just think of the Homie Don't Play That from In Living Color, who's got the big shoe, and he's just going to whap you upside the head. Homie, don't play that.
Yeah, maybe I should get a big shoe.
Right, because, great, now she's throwing a shoe at me.
But let people hear your voice about this particular thing I'm talking about, so they can understand. You give me that funny look again. So that they can understand that you have your foundation is that it has to be hell so that you can have your reward.
I feel like, there's so many things going on because this was part of my foundation, and I really, that specifically from my mom's side. I don't even know if my dad's side got to play in this, but I really feel that my mom's side was really because of...
We don't want to blame, but we are seeing...
Because we hung out more with that side of the family and my cousins and that kind of thing, and I have a stronger relationship with them. I don't even know some of my cousins on my dad's side. from his brother. So part of it is that because of my mom's childhood, it was a complete war zone because of my grandfather's alcoholism.
Okay.
And they had no idea what daily living was going to be like. They had no idea when they got home from school what was going to happen when they got home. And so then they would just, my mom's got a twin brother and an older brother, and they were the three musketeers or whatever, and then they would just get on their bikes and just, you know, those were the days where you could just be gone until like, okay, it's dinner time kind of thing. And they would just, they knew all over Pasadena and then into Orange County in Southern California. But so that was part of the foundation, was that was hell. So they came from that foundation. I feel like some of that was passed on in a genetic way.
It is, because you have to remember the reason that you pick the family you do on the genetic scale you do is because each part of those souls that interact have to play out those particular belief systems, decisions, evidence, and experiences that the soul experienced. And so if you're going to learn a particular thing, you got to get someone that's qualified or at least believes in that or is going to be your opposite. So this is how you can genetically pick your friends and your family, because you literally, somebody says, you genetically pick your friends? Yes, you do.
Yeah.
But it's all of that energy coding. It's an encoding that's imprinted in the soul, that's out there and says, here's a roadmap.
And then I was, on top of that, born in a time period where it was the Watergate trial was going on the year that I was born. My mom decided she was going to raise two independent, free-thinking young ladies. I heard that phrase over and over. That's how I know that I was raised that way, because I heard that time and again. So she was a very active, she was feminist. She wasn't out there with her protest sign, but she was like, she ain't gonna take nothing. So that is another form of hell. And then it's about, okay, well now you have to learn how to, between school board, city council, this, that, the other, know that you have a voice within the system, because the system is already shit.
Yeah, that's already pre-programmed.
That's in place. So you talk about how I have to have that first domino. This is some of what was laid out before I came onto the planet.
That's very good to really look at it. From the fact that they are details of the foundation, we're not looking at it as a blame, but we're looking at it going, each piece fueled and sourced this particular motivation. Now again, this is how her soul was motivated to get to where she thought she lost something. When I was telling her how she already had the in-charge energy, you gave me the look of shock.
I have no idea.
And now do you see it?
Kinda, yeah. I
Okay.
can take a step back and look and observe.
So now what's important is that she takes this particular way of seeing it, getting that familiarity, and creating a pathway. We're going to talk about how after this.
There we go.
All right, now we're back. All right, we were talking about creating pathways, creating new pathways. When I was younger, when men would be creating a new pathway, they were accused of being lost. And they were yelled at and screamed, "We're lost! That's bad! That's bad! That's just wrong! We're lost!" You understand what I'm saying?
Alright, and they won't ask for directions?
Yeah. Now, we still want you to understand that what's important is that when you are journeying somewhere new, creating a pathway is that you are meant to go into a different route that you've never been before, but you don't have to end up lost. You don't
I don't know where I'm going.
You don't have to go
For
into that
example.
prediction to say that you're lost. The first time I started to do this, everybody say you're lost. I go, no, I'm creating a new pathway. Oh, you're just kidding yourself. You're lying. You're justifying because you're lost.
And you're an asshole, and thanks for showing up so I can heal that layer.
And so I'm like, okay. I did heal that out.
Okay, good.
So now I just take pathways. And so I says, let's be on a journey today. I have no where I'm going, but I don't have to be led with fear. I don't have to be motivated to do it with fear. I'm going to do this. So as I start to take and create a new pathway, some people have heard of the books, The Celestine Prophecies, and some have watched the movie, The Celestine Prophecy. And one of the things they teach you is to look, if you're at crossroads, look for where and the best way to describe it would be the energies that it's clear, it's positive, it's full of light and love, and that would be the pathway you want to go. And so as it's progressively moving forward, you have to learn to fine-tune and trust that this is what's going on. First, change in the language. So as I'm creating new pathways, you have two energies that come at you always at the same time, always. Like I said, we've always been trained, only see the negative, only predict the bad, only do this. You know what? I'm so tired of those people that say they're not psychics, but yet they can predict the future. I'm always going to have a red light. I'm always going to have, that economy's always going to, you know, they're always going to.
Thank you for predicting. As Pumbaa from The Lion King would say, you are putting your behind, or your past and your behind. Your behind and your past.
I don't know.
Or you're putting your behind in your past, and you're bringing that forward. So quit doing that. Yeah, quit leading with your behind.
There you go. Finally got it.
I don't know.
But we have to resolve the hell, so we don't always have to see the negative first. So when we start to see the positive,
put your past behind you.
There you go. You positively are learning to look for the good things. Like I said, I was in a state of hopelessness. One thing led to another. And the wonderful thing that had happened was that the clue that Mark said is that, hey, somebody else would like to have Medicine Woman Reveal shows. And I thought, how wonderful is that? That is a wonderful, wonderful clue that says that now I can go witness that something good happened in my life, and we have to heal all the things that we think it's bragging. Oh, people are going to think that I'm vain and all of this other stuff. We're supposed to be quiet. No. That is the old way of learning to stay conformed and be sheeple. Witnessing is to yourself, writing it down, talking it out, being happy, being proud, because here's the main thing that happens. It's what they call a marker. Okay? A marker is a mark that your soul has told you that you left behind, a big chunk of your energy, and you mark those negative experiences. Those markers that are inside of you will easily be able to develop an emotion that comes from within that can then go out and then creates the law of the universe to bring the hell back faster. When you are creating with a positive thing or your future or using law of attraction to create better, the main thing that people forget is that there's no marker. Without the marker, then they go into positive thinking, and so they have nothing anchored inside, so they're doing everything they can to muster up the emotion and the thought process and make sure it sounds good, that it takes 21 days to anchor, and a lot of times it's going to take longer than that because you have a foundation that's going to override what you're doing. You need to witness, you need to get those pathways, and you need to create a healthy, positive marker inside of you so that when you go and say, I know that if I just do this, this will happen. And you can say good things. See, and I knew that that hopelessness state was just a phase I was supposed to go through so I can mark down. What was I supposed to learn? For me, it was strategies. Learning how two people come together. What happens when they're in that stage? Where does the energy go? How does other people's energies get affected? That's just some of the things I was learning. Now, what happens is that when you start to put this witness of this positive in the nature, okay, so during that hopeless stage, I already knew that I needed to look for the hope, the light at the end of the tunnel, the hope, which leads you to knowing that you have a pathway, that there's something there. So I'm looking, going, okay, I know it is. Thank you, angels, for bringing it towards me so that I can, know that I have evidence that healthy, strong, and wonderful is going to lead me in the direction I need. And so Mark, when he wrote that, was my way of saying, for angels saying, oh, look, there it is. And see, I know it's coming. I'm living in expectancy, not expectation. Jen, why don't you explain that to people?
So, an expectation, it's kind of like the people who do that predicting of, oh, the economy's going to tank, oh, that person's going to show up as that. It's an expectation. If I'm going, for example, if I'm doing that 9-to-5 job, when I show up, this is going to happen. I expect this is how I get there, this is what it takes to get the transportation there, what it's like,
And you go to retreats, too.
There's a routine. Yes, there's an expectation. And there's a framework that I have in place that this is going to happen, but it also in my framework, it allows for this, that, and the other, unless it's a complete loop over here. Yeah, you know, kind of thing.
You have to explain what does the average person, when they live in expectation, they don't have those side things. They have.
It's very rigid, and it
if
has to
anything
show
interrupts
up.
it, what's going to happen?
What? You're oh, wait, no. There's not room for that, and it's not the people who have a difficult time with change.
Yeah, and there's no ebb and flow. There's no the way the bridge is put together.
This is how this is.
The sutures in your brain, they have an ebb and flow. You know, there's structures about the ebb and flow. But when you are living in an expectation, meaning you created it and there's nothing that can come out or come in, there's no variance, then it's just going to be, no, it won't make any sense. So now I've got to be blaming those in the outside world that it has to be this way. I was explaining to my daughter, you know, she says, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. I says, but you can alter it. You can do what you need to adapt. And it doesn't mean you're compromising. It just means that you can learn that there's another routine you can do. She goes, no, why are you being mean? I'm like, I wasn't being mean. In her mind, that was being mean. Don't take me off what I know, and don't tell me something different, because then that's just mean. You're not supporting me. Okay? There's literally the expectations is that it has to stay in this box. It has to stay in this framework. Expectancy is when you finally resolve your issues and you learn to live in expectancy, which is
knowing that, for example, so this thing of driving to a retreat, if I were just only in expectation, these people are going to be here at this time and I'm going to show up and they're going to get in and then this is what we're going to do, and if I have, you know, yeah, I guess I have to stop for the kids if they have to go to the bathroom, but yeah, okay, fine, we'll do it here, 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 and here, and that's it. With the way that I do it, there's expectancy. Okay, I'm going to get a van, and kids are going to get in it, and we're going to get on this road, and I know the way to get over there, and it takes about this long to get there, and eventually I know what I know what that is going to look like when I get there, but it allows for, hey, we have to stop. Okay, well, I'll find a place along here somewhere. Okay, it's not going to be so rigid that these are the only, there's allowances for things to occur, that there's an expectancy. Okay, I see that this is going to happen, and it allows for such and such and such to occur on that journey.
Yes, expectancy, knowing something's going to happen. Not it's going to happen, it's knowing something's going to happen. And when we actually allow ourselves to grow, especially with the future and wonderful possibilities, you don't sit there and try to put it in a framework, because you will then create an expectation. Living in expectancy is that it becomes greater than you could ever imagine. I never imagined. I never knew that existed, how Mark said it's all going to happen. I'm curious of how it's going to. I don't mind. I'm looking forward to sitting and chatting with him and knowing more about this thing that I never knew existed. But when we keep thinking we know everything that exists, it keeps us in the framework of that stops you in the development of knowing stage. Because you got the baby, the student, the teacher, and the guru. And if you do not understand that most of the time people live in the baby stage, that is where you know everything. There's no room for anything else. And then you really limit you from growing. So live in expectancy, knowing that something's going to come better. And the only way that you can have something that comes better than the way you know it is you start to witness, you take that energy, you allow new pathways, and anything that would seem negative or limitations, you resolve them. You do not need to keep the decision, you don't need to keep the BS, the belief system, or the bullshit, because once you heal the belief system, the BS of bullshit starts to disappear. You become more in tune with your higher self, because everybody says they're done being a sheep. The best way to stop being a sheep is to stop conforming by the structure of how you create your world. Resolve some of these things, and you'll be amazed at how much further you get to evolve from this. Okay? What I noticed just recently has been, in my view, because this is about my world I'm healing, is that people will get other people to attack them. And okay, so they'll put something pretty on their walls to talk about inspiration. And so this latest one for me has been learning how to support other people. Even though yesterday, oh, you don't have to support me, I don't need it. Okay, all right, but I like to know that other people have my back, and it's not in a fighting stance. It is in a spiritual growth stance that we
Right,
know.
I'm going to come and I'm going to stand next to you.
And which means, energetic-wise, I'm there for you.
Right, you are living your life, but you maybe know that my imprint is there next to you. That
It's a comforting thought.
right.
So as I was watching this, another thing I witnessed was how this woman would post stuff. Now, she posted something that apparently somebody else hated because ACIM,
A Course in Miracles.
And so there is a lot of wonderful growth that can happen from that book. And there's a lot of people that says, what's the credentials? Where's it written from? What's it from? Okay, condemn, 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 because it doesn't fit my world.
And it's
understandable.
some form of brainwashing or something.
Yeah, and it's understandable. This is their perception from that point of view. Got it. But when somebody else probably doesn't even know what an ACIM is, but uses the same philosophy because it popped up in a meme or some other inspiration, and if they don't have a pathway what it is, and they post it on their wall because it inspires them, well, I watched this other person come onto their wall and saying, how dare you post your beliefs onto my wall? I became friends with you because I trusted you, and now I can't trust you because you're posting crap like this on my wall. She goes, what are you talking about? She says, this, and this, and this, and it's all ACIM, and you're all a bunch of effing nuts and da-da-da-da-da, and how evil, and it's brainwashing, and you're trying to brainwash me. You're turning your back on your country.
And
I'm like, how does that turn your back on your country?
And I deleted all those people associated with it.
Yeah, and I'm like, how did she get to this, to how it doesn't support your country? And I'm like, okay. And then she went on how all of a sudden, not only did she post her own beliefs on my wall, which all she did was post it in, she didn't post, except for she had, the one lady said something about 9/11 and the country and something about...
It was an inside job, and because you're doing this, you can't see this, and how did you vote for this person, who's this, that, the other thing, and you're just brainwashed. I'm like...
But what the little phrase was, I can't remember the complete thing, was that...
Everything's okay.
Everything's okay, and this is the way certain things are done. And so then... She, the one that was enlightened, had wrote, she goes, that is correct, that's one way. She goes, but there is also another way. And she posted that. And it's like, how dare you tell me there's another way? There's only one way, and she saw that as evil of going against her country. And so anyway, she's ripping her a new one, and the girl is doing very well, saying, I'm sorry you feel that way. There is all these different belief systems. She says, and to me it doesn't matter. And she says, that's the problem. You don't care. And so then... It's all the semantics of words. So I just wrote her and I said, I'm just here to support you. I'm sending loving thoughts your way. Because you do need to know that there's like-minded peeps out there, and you don't have to do this trail alone. I started out alone. Oh my God. That is, when you feel like there's nobody else there like you, you want to stay more in your shell, and you won't come out. Because you really feel like there's not a fellow man that will show you that they get you.
It's like Harry Potter living under the staircase in that household of his aunt and family. Like, if I step my foot out, then I'm just going to automatically be attacked. It's in the same way.
Exactly.
Living in our shells.
Exactly. And, when I thought, all I would, because of my foundations, my way of attracting, the attraction factor was that I had to bring in people that were always disagreeing with me, didn't like me, rejected me. So those were the only friends I had. So I would have to, of course, want to make friends with them. I found a strategy of how I could basically tear myself up, stop being who I am, and to be friends with them. As I started getting older, it's like, no, I don't have to be friends with you. I don't have to apologize for something you did that caused me pain, but I have to apologize for it. I don't have to do it anymore. I don't have to act a certain way anymore. And I actually realize there's people that get me, and I can live in this space. They may think I'm delusional, but yet what I realize is when I pulled my energy out from them, they never had any other friends. So they were feeding off of me by getting their power in that form. Like you were saying, the one friend of yours, they're not using the power. Well, I wasn't using my power because I never thought I had it, because the people I had in my space always had this power play going on, and everybody's in their pains, and everybody had to try to soothe everybody. Everybody had to be right, and everybody. It's like, so there's a lot of interesting things that can occur. What we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. So we're back, and we have the last 15 minutes of our show, and what I would like to do is to, you know, we're not just coaches, and we're not just teachers, spiritual leaders or teachers. We also do readings, and we give healing tools. It's so important for everybody to understand. So the latest healing tool that I have put up on my wall, I think it's medicinewoman, the number 4, the letter U.com, I'll soon have it on MWR, is sensory system accessing. And we talked a little bit about, you know, what dominating sense do you have when you're stressed? For me, my dominating sense is my eyes. For her, it is tonal. Now, there is some test, and I'm going to eventually do a video on how to test and put that up on our site. We're going to be known medicine women that have a lot of healing tools.
Yes.
You know, but there's the sensory system. She was going through her hells, but I already knew she was going to be going through certain things just like I was, and I had posted it up there, do this, you know, and without the video, and or maybe I get the video done. All I know is that she had to go an extra day or so of her particular hells, which means being in the middle of the lesson. When you know consciously you're going through all this and you're like, I can't get out. But she's gone and done enough of this healing that she knows she's going to get out. It's just that she has to go and wade through the muck, I would call it. You have to be in the middle of the lesson.
Well, it's like a person cleaning the pool, you know, if they don't have a cover for it right before the season, you have to go and you rake and you clean and you
Yes.
get all the dregs off of it. I could see that I just needed to kind of, there was some final things as far as just cleaning up that muck.
So as we're doing that, what's important to understand is usually you test for 4 things. Are you a digital? And there's information by Donna Eden out there that talks about it on a DVD only about relationships, but I am going to figure out how to incorporate it so that people can really get this juicy information. I'm not going to give this information so people can use it against each other. You want to give this information so that people can heal and resolve to move forward. I haven't decided how.
To improve.
Mm-hmm. I haven't decided how I want to present this. But tonal-wise, the healing is quite simple. Correct?
Yes.
And it's not very hard. That you have to remember there's 2 sides of it. So you have a digital, tonal, auditory,
Kinesthetic.
and kinesthetic. And that's the feeling state. People say, yeah, but how can you do the feeling state? Well, you feel it here or you feel it outside of yourself, inside or outside. With the nose, we also do taste buds as well as the nose, because you have the left side and the right side. We first start out, we connect with people with our nose. Okay, even though that's my dominancy is my eyes, I've had to go into healing the way entanglement cord connects through the nose. Because when we first start out in the womb, we have, so many weeks in, we have our hearing kicks in. And so many weeks a little bit further, closer to birth, our eyesight starts to come in to the point where you start to see light. Okay? And then when the very first sensory system that gets exposed to seeing, sensory systems is a way, as a perception tool. Okay?
And because I keep thinking the word proprioception is how you feel your environment.
Yeah, you physically orient.
So in this, you on the video, that's really great for our radio listeners as I'm describing, hey, this is what it looks like. So, 1-level house, there's the big room that we talk about where the TV is, where there was a classroom, there's Brenda's office, Scott's office, and then there's bedrooms down the hallway. So when I'm lucky enough to be a roommate in this living environment. So when I'm on the other side of my door in my little comfy, cozy room, and I'm ready to go out in the hallway, the proprioception is, how am I going to acclimate myself into the rest of this living environment? I'm using my ears because that, as we talked about how I created my foundation was, that as a kid listening, and if I'm in that foundation, it's listening for, are they speaking bad against me? Did I do something wrong? Kind of way of, there's also healthy ways of feeling your environment. That's how I knew how to enter. So it's like, and then when you're playing jump rope, it's how to enter into, okay, well, I've got to figure out a way to get into this situation. And that's a way to define proprioception. It's how you're feeling your environment to get in.
And as you are born, the first thing that actually gets to have, besides the light, is your smell. Okay? You've already used those other tools in perception tools inside the womb. So when you come out, it's the taste buds, it is the smell. You know, they got to clean them out, and that new perception tool to greet the world. And part of the survival is to root for nourishment, and so you look for it. In the animal kingdom, there's a lot of animals that have to go figure out how to root to find where the milk is, the nourishment. Is it the kangaroo, just everything. Everybody has to root to get to where they need to go. And so it's the same for babies when they have instinct of going through this. This is why you always see babies trying to cling to men's breasts, because they don't know. They just know they have to root, and they know it's in that area, and they know that, it's there. There's something there. So there's always this basic imprint that's in that particular thing. So your sensory systems are very important. I've had to clear them out of all of mine. The digital is more of a non-feeling, but more of a thinking process, and that's usually where you get caught up in the self-talk. But there are certain personalities, and maybe we'll talk about this someday, and I can start defining a little bit more about each one of these. But the tonal accessing, so it's sensory system accessing, and then I put it as a general one, because it's pretty much the same basic pattern for all of the other sensory systems. When you're doing the ears, you have to remember that basically you have a memory on a specific experience. Is it a fresh one, which is what you just experienced, or is it an old one, when you first experienced it? When she came in, I said, did you hear us take offense? And I don't know what your first reaction is, but there was a part of you that I could see thinking, going through the steps, and it was for me, when I see another person, like when she took and put her hands up in great disgust as she's trying to eat about how she took a total offense to what the hell I just said, I see it. And so that would be the picture I'm looking at, and I'm going to take that picture, and what I did was record it with both eyes, but it'll be stronger in one eye versus the other, because that's just part of also the domination of how we have in our bodies, which is a whole nother project about which sensory system is dominant versus which sensory system is dominant in a stress mode. Okay? And so we go back, I had to look at all of how this fresh experience of her doing this, and it came up into my right eye, and it was a very strong number, and in my left eye it was a very weak number. So I started off covering the weak eye and then looking through and creating all of the experience. Now this is where you use everything, the sight, the smell, the sound, everything, the feeling, and for me, I'm looking through the right eye, and you can combine it with other healing tools, but it's just simply pulling it out. First you test it, put on a scale from 0 to 10, give it a color, and then you start pulling it out. You're literally cueing your subconscious mind to say, let go. You're not saying, let go. You're literally showing it there's another way to look at it, or another way to hear it.
It's like you're holding its hand through the process of saying it's okay to build this foundation, to let it go. You're not just saying, be done.
Right.
It's here.
Change that would be, it's too abrupt.
Right, the cold turkey method. No, this is a way of, you got to build, it's building those pathways in your brain, and sometimes, and it's finding a friendly way to do it.
And when you first start out, you're thinking it don't work. You'd be surprised. It has worked. It's just that you have to trust yourself, or you have to believe it works, or this will work for me. But you have to, how you start anything off is that you have to first get rid of the fact you're going to denigrate, or someone's going to denigrate you because you didn't know it. Okay? You're creating a new pathway. So you have to forgive yourself if you don't know everything off the bat about this particular thing. So when it begins to happen, say, I could improve this. How do I do it? Okay, let me watch that video again. That's what, oh, okay, I got it. So when you start to pull it out, you are working with both sides, because like I told you in the beginning, we have opposites, a left and a right, male, female, whatever. But when you're healing, you're communicating with the subconscious mind and you're holding its hand, like she said, but you're learning to work together, coming in and out, working together, and for the greater good. And the number one job of the subconscious mind is to preserve the body. So you're helping to preserve the body by resolving this particular thing that you're going through. So for me, I was seeing her hand gestures. I was hearing and smelling at the same time of what it looks like. Yes, I smelled what it looked like. So all of my sensory system was in play. And then as I'm pulling it out, you throw it in the treasure chest, you just pull it out, and then you deliberately say switch. And that is, oh! And what it does is that you're looking for the peak point, and then the brain will go, okay, fine. You don't want to get lost in it. It'll still work, but you want, not like when you do hope therapy, but you want to do something deliberate. So snapping of the fingers, uncovering the left, covering the right, and then looking through everything through just the left eye. Don't use the right eye, just through the left eye. Give it a color and number. And when you go back and forth, and you keep pulling, and you eventually just keep switching sides of the eyes, the color, the number, the way that you saw it, the way you took it in, the way that you marked it, becomes dissolved. And it is a very wonderful releasing process. And it took a matter of just a few minutes. And she pulled it out and she's like, huh, do you feel better? Yeah. Now that's when we got to talk about how she's going through stages. Her depression was so bad that literally she was trying to, it's like me when I was in extreme physical pain. With depression, you don't really have a physical pain, but the pain is just as strong as if it was physical. Just like when you have autism children that have the energy coming in so fast, it's painful, but you can't explain the pain because it's not like a physical cut. It's not like a physical pressure. It's different. It's hard to explain it.
And now that I'm uncovering and opening up and becoming more vulnerable when something is happening and I hear it, the pain. I have
tell sign.
My pain in my ear is like somebody's taken a glass bottle or something and just smushed it up and just shoved it into my inner ear, where now I'm hearing my environment through somebody, this gritty, it is physical pain that I'm hearing what's happening on just this emotional level, but amplified through the way that now I'm hearing it. Mm-hmm. And part of it was anticipating this event that's going to take place later on this winter, and a family member is going to be there, and it's like, oh, I'm anticipating that going to be happening. It's going to be hell, and then part of this unwinds too in playing out with all these other things. But but nobody can see that I'm going through this physical pain, and they just assume that everything's okay. But I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I'm just like,
yeah.
But so then to do that sensory system accessing pulls that pain out.
Yeah, and you literally can take out certain physical pain. Your body will breathe through it, and if you just start to breathe through it instead of going, oh my God, this is making it worse, which is what some people used to do, well, this still ain't made it worse. No, there's things that are turning on. There are things that your body's letting go of. These are the things that the reason you held it is because you couldn't process it, and they're saying, are you sure you're ready to process it? Yes, breathe it through and follow it through. And then it's resetting those nerves. It's resetting all of that particular stuff. When you actually start to release and on those levels, you can have a greater enlightenment. Now, our show's wrapping up, and we want to thank you for everything you have done. We will be here on Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and again on Friday from 5 to 7 p.m. And we appreciate this opportunity that we have. We're learning our countdown and passing on, what do you call it, the handoff.
Yes.
So we're watching the clock, and we're trying to do it on the best timing. So as soon as got like 30 seconds left, we just want to say thank you, and we'll be
We appreciate all the support, the ways that you listen.
Yep, and
you
remember
can
to
look at
support
the
the
button. We
station.
videotape these, so our YouTube channel is youtube.com/Medicine Women Reveal, all spelled out.
Find us on Facebook too. We are Medicine Women Reveal, or is it MW Reveal? But either way, come look for us. We'd love to chat. And so we'll see you next time on
Medicine Women Reveal on Sepia.
nc.com/radio. All right, out.